Patrick Henry, you gonna get anything out of them?
Yes,
What?
when they come forward with their rezoning,
Right.
we will get what we have to.
Okay. I look forward to seeing if it go, if that goes through. I mean, if we get this dispute resolved. We'll see.
They understood clearly that transportation is a considerable concern that we had.
It was the reason we stopped processing their application, transportation and the ability to provide a lot.
I think one of the things I would say that because conditions change over time too, and that's the ultimate failure of a plan. Not that it's right, it's always going to be wrong. It's a question if it's wrong, what are the consequences? And so Coogan has some challenges how the property developed. It made some assumptions, some of which have proven true, some of which haven't. We all agree there's a traffic problem, and it relied on pretty much primarily, nearly 100% on property. And so when lots of the property, I think it was 5 years ago when they were doing the update, 40% of the JLMA had already developed by right, residentially. So the ability for either of us to rely on proffers to complete a transportation network is probably not a good strategy moving forward.
Well,
so the question is, now what do we do? What roads? What do we do to try to accomplish those objectives?
I would agree, and I would ask, as I look at all the proposals that are geared for 287 between Business 7 and the bypass, if they were to all come about, it seems to me that you would be well advised to step back and do another traffic study of that tour, because if Patrick Henry goes to 1,600 students, or 2,000 people, or whatever, and that
1,600.
Students, but you've got faculty and
1,200 students, 500 graduates, and 200 employees. So.
okay, 1,800 then. Okay, about the size of one of our new high schools.
We have to.
We
understand.
Right. Traffic in high school.
But I think you'd be well advised to do a traffic study for that section to see what really needs to be done. I don't know.
I think it points out the need that really, from my perspective, because those road systems are set up for the JLMA, people coming and going. For better or for worse, whether I would Percival to be the commercial hub of Western Loudon, that's what the county's plan says, and that's what Coogan says. So we all have to deal with it. Because that was, I understand that theory of concentrating growth around the town, so that the rest of the hinterland stay generally more rural, whatever that means to people. So I think it probably is in both of our interests to look at a regional transportation plan to JLMA, which we had asked during our discussions with the county about settling some of the matters where we had a previous dispute about cost sharing to do a regional transportation solution for the JLMA. Because you can't isolate the traffic from the town and say it doesn't go into JLMA and the JLMA traffic doesn't come into the town.
Yeah.
And it seems to be the best approach to rethink or to revisit at least some of these proposed improvements that have been drawn on those lines maps forever. Is there a better way?
That's probably something that should be done, considering the funding situation and how bleak it looks for as far as we can see on actually implementing any improvements there. You would be well advised, I would think, to maybe step back from some of these applications and rethink whether or not you really want to go down that road, no pun intended.
That'll be a decision we'll come to, but setting aside those, I think it behooves the county as well to partner with the town, and that includes financial partnership.
We gave you $5.7 million for transportation, why don't you spend some of it?
We identified specifically for cost sharing for this, and you guys didn't want to do that, so you specifically X that out. We can talk about all that if you want to, but finding a way to move forward.
Yeah.
You brought up the suggestion of the town solely doing this study, and I'm bringing up your partner. I think we should partner jointly to do some kind of a transportation study for the JLMA.
I would.
We should discuss how we could, if we could.
We can talk about that. We can talk about that. I can't make a commitment now because I know Terry's gonna go through the ceiling over there trying to figure out how to do what's on her plate now.
But I think I would agree with the concept as well. We need to explore how that can be done.
Yeah.
Because VDOT, in our meeting with VDOT, we had a meeting with VDOT about some matters, and one we did bring up was this Route 287 interchange and why the VDOT said, as you pointed out, they have zero projects in there, even though it's their road, They have, and so is hers, which ties in there and complicates the geometry of all those interchanges. And they have some property right there, is to say, they said anticipate no funding from VDOT for any of those improvements.
Yeah.
So,
I think the other piece that you brought up, Jim, is certainly we're cognizant of the traffic impact that folks with proposals want to bring to the town. And we also understand, though, that folks are entitled to due process through the system. And the fact of the matter is annexation is totally discretionary. And Tom and I both voted against the annexation request by Han and some of his folks to do 140 units just south of Valley Springs. And transportation was one of the concerns that the town had. And so just because, I think I want to just clarify for the record, because someone applies doesn't mean they get an automatic yes answer. And the ultimate card is rezoning. And I know that in talking with my colleagues, and we were very frank with the folks from Patrick Henry College, transportation is a major issue that we have, and that they're going to need to address it. Because otherwise, they can build one house for 3 acres.
Well, I think water is also a major issue.
And they're giving us a well as part of the water sewer. So
I've read your water sewer.
they're actually better than the one we do with the county.
it's more advantageous to us.
Right.
They cover their water, or they pay, if they can't provide it on site, they have to go buy a well someplace else and do it, so it's great for us. In addition to the availability fee.
They're going to do communal wells?
They have a well site.
They have a well site, right. I understand they want to drill a total of 5 wells. You
I have none.
I think you've got, I think it's in your file. Anyway, that's another stuff. Let's move on to 7.8. What's the?
It's another one that, in the plan, that, I'm just curious that, and this may be back to the old definitions. When we were updating last time, we tried to come to some agreement on definitions, and I think we need to agree on the definition of encourage. The PUGAM says the town and county will encourage the completion of the Southern Collector Road. And so I've tried to figure out, how do we jointly encourage the completion? Even though we may individually, the bodies adopt the plan, and for better or for worse, that plan is adopted, we're supposed to implement it, not frustrate it.
I understand. And back during the negotiations for the settlement over Woodgrove, you asked for specific amount of money to finish that, for our portion of finishing the construction.
Pay for the balance to serve, the MVTA didn't provide funding for it.
Right, I remember what it was, and my board, majority of my board agreed to provide that. It was included in that 5.78 million, but as you know, the majority of my board was not interested in exercising eminent domain on the Browns farm, and that's where we are. My question to you is, if you go through, if you're allowed to go through with the annexation that you voted on this summer and build that, what are you going to do? What are you going to do to ensure that the Browns can continue the farming operation?
One of the things that we did do is, you know, that the original alignment ran through the portion that was, where there is no dispute. It was clearly, at that time, phase 1, the 16 acres is jointly owned by both brothers, primarily by Tim. So the council, at some expense, went back, retained an engineering firm to look at other alignments. That didn't impact that specific piece that the Browns asked us, is there a way? Can't you, here's our concern, and they listed them, it's no secret what the concerns were. And the attorney went back and actually concurred with it. It would be a more expensive alignment for us to construct in a different spot, but we went back to look at and selected an alternative alignment that went through 100 feet of the road, was built on property owned by the Browns, on 2.5 acres that they don't farm,